Hey guys, it's Adrian or BHA here, bringing you the last video of 2021. So this is right before Christmas time. I hope everybody's getting ready for the holidays and amped up and everything to spend time with their families. That's definitely what I'm looking forward to here. Nonetheless, the great folks over at Panoob sent me over one last awesome product to show you guys for the end of this year, and that is the 4K 8-channel NVR. It comes with four dome cameras along with it to kind of get you started with your NVR product, and it even has a 2 terabyte hard drive for local storage. So we're going to check this thing out and see what all we can do with it. Here we go. All right, so the best place to probably pick this thing up is on Amazon's website. I'm sure there's some other places that you can pick it up, but Amazon is definitely the best place to go. I'm not going to dive into all the specs and everything just yet. We're going to look at that here shortly. And I know this video is going to run a little long, so let's go ahead and dive right in.
All right, so let's do a quick run through of everything we're going to cover in this video. For starters, we'll, of course, start by unboxing the NVR and the cameras and see what all we get inside that box. Once we do that, then we will look at installing one of those cameras just to kind of show you what that might look like. After that, we're going to take a look at the NVR locally and kind of see what that looks like, and we'll see about getting that camera added. Once we get some cameras in there, we will go over the config of the NVR and see what all we can do with it. After that, we're going to see about trying to get it added into Home Assistant and if that's even possible. And then, of course, lastly, I'll just kind of give you my final thoughts. So let's get started. All right, so let's start by unboxing this NVR here. So it comes in a pretty decent sized box. It's actually pretty big, but I guess it needs to be, to hold the NVR and 4 cameras and all the items needed to kind of install it and everything. So I guess that does make somewhat sense. It has a lot of information on the outside of the box as far as like the basic specs and stuff, which is pretty cool. So of course it comes with instructions on how to install it and get everything set up. And then let's see here, in this little bubble wrapped package here is the actual NVR. It's pretty small form factor, so it's kind of nice. Doesn't take up a lot of space. Here on the back, as you can see, there's 8 ports. These are all PoE for the 8 cameras that it will handle, so 1 port per channel. Then it has the network uplink port there. 2 USB ports. I'm thinking you can like hook a mouse and a keyboard up to it or something like that. It has an audio out, and then it has your standard HDMI or VGA out, depending on how you want to configure the output there. Let's see what else we get in the box. So of course you got the power cord. Looks like a network cord, so that it basically will come with everything that you really need to get this thing set up. It uses a power brick for the power source. There is a mouse in there as well, so that you can kind of control it locally. Since it does come with 4 cameras, there are 4 network cables in here, one for each of those PoE cameras. Looks like they're about 50 to 75 feet. So that should give you plenty of length to get that thing installed around your house, wherever you need to install it. Let's go ahead and open up one of these cameras just to kind of show you what that looks like. All right, so in the box itself, for the camera, you get the, obviously the camera itself. It comes with screws to mount it with, as well as a waterproof jacket for your network cable, to make sure you don't get any moisture in there or anything like that. But that's pretty much it as far as the camera goes. And as you can see, there is no mounting bracket for that camera. It's basically going to screw straight to the wall. All right, so just to kind of go over some of the specs here, we got a 8-channel NVR with 4K resolution, so that's pretty nice. It comes with 2 terabytes of local storage for recording, but it will actually handle up to 6 terabytes. So if you decide you want to expand or grow that hard drive at a later date, you can replace it and get a little bit more storage out of that. It's H.264 and H.265 video compression. It looks like all the way up to Ultra 265, so that's pretty good. Pretty standard on the latest and greatest. And there's various options for the recording mode, so motion detection, alarm triggered, and whatnot. So a few different options there. Now on the cameras themselves, these cameras that come with it are only 5 megapixels. So they're not going to be the highest quality that this NVR will support, but it should be enough to get you started. They do have a built-in microphone, so it will pick up audio as well, so that makes that pretty nice. These are PoE cameras, and of course they do support OnVIF as well. But that's about it as far as the specs go. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll get one of these cameras installed. All right, so installing the camera was a pretty simple step here. Basically, I just did a drop-in replacement of an old LaView dome camera that I already had on my front porch. So here is the original LaView camera, and we're basically just going to pull that out, and then here in the next clip, you can see I installed that one right in its place. It was a really easy install. Wasn't a whole lot to it, so I didn't go into a lot of details as far as doing the install. The screws pretty much lined up, everything was the same. Just a reminder, with this Panoob dome camera, you don't have an actual mounting bracket. You just screw this dome camera straight to the wall, and then it has a little bezel that will go over the top of the screws to kind of hide them. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll look at getting it set up in the NVR itself. All right, so as you can see, the NVR is powering up here. There's the Panoob logo there. And I have the new dome camera installed on channel 1, and then on channel 2, I have an actual 2K Panoob bullet cam that I've done a video on recently. And I'll have the link for that up in the corner there in case you want to check out that video. There will be a little bit of an initial setup here, just kind of going through the little setup wizard since this is the first time we've powered on the NVR. It's going to require me to give it a password. We'll just kind of fast forward through this here. Set up the time zone. I will be using DHCP, so I'm not going to change anything there. And then, of course, here is the QR code if I wanted to download the latest Guard Viewer app. But we'll do that later. As you can see, since I had those 2 cameras plugged in, they are already showing up. Everything looks good there, so I didn't even have to make any changes. By default, it was able to get those added. So as far as adding the Panoob cameras into the NVR themselves, it went pretty smooth. There was no additional setup required to make that work. So just looking at the 2 cameras in the system itself, it actually pulled in the model number and everything, so it was able to detect them pretty easily. And of course, you can kind of click on it here, and it just shows you it was added via plug and play, so we didn't have to do any manual configuration there. It is using OnVIF for its protocol, and since it is the default password, it was able to use that to add the cameras and everything, so that's pretty good. Not a whole lot of other information listed there on the screen display, but let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll take a look at the configuration. All right, so we're going to go over the configuration here on the locally on the screen here. So I showed you the cameras there just a second ago, but we'll just kind of go through some of the various settings. There's tons of stuff you can do here on the display, and basically everything that you can do here, you can also do through the web interface as well. So I'm not going to kind of show you over and over again. we'll look at it through here, and then we'll go into some other stuff, but I'm not going to show you everything on both the on-screen display and the web interface since they're so similar. But here, of course, this is where you'll set your encoding for the camera if you need to tweak that, change the resolution or the bit rate or anything like that. You have some various options there if you need to make some different setting changes there. For the time being, I'm going to leave everything the default. On the OSD, the on-screen display, this is where you can change the layout of the clock or the date format. You also have the ability to change the name here. So we'll go up here in the corner. We'll change it from just camera. We'll call it front door. The only downside to doing this on the on-screen display is, of course, you're having to use a little mouse to try to do it. It's so much easier to do most of these things on the web interface. So just kind of keep that in mind. There on the side door camera or channel 2, I already have the name, everything. It pulled that in as I was already using this camera on my other NVR, so it kind of had that information already saved. So we didn't have to do any changes there. If you go over to here to image, you can change the brightness and the contrast and various things to the actual image if you needed to. Again, I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to kind of leave it the default. Under privacy mask, if you want to enable it, as you can see, it's disabled by default. You have the ability to do that, and of course, it will mask those areas on the screen for privacy. BCA search, of course, everything is enabled for all the channels by default. The type is set to all. I'm just going to kind of leave that again as the default. Not going to change anything there. On the network settings, I don't have it configured on the network just yet. But I'm going to leave it set to enable DHCP so that whenever I do plug in the network cable, it should automatically pull an IP address. Then here, of course, is where you can set dynamic DNS if you needed to, or set up an email for alerts if you wanted to do that as well. All right, under system settings, there is the device name, which of course is just the model number for this NVR. And this is where we can kind of set up our layout as far as how we want the cameras to be displayed on the screen locally. Again, I'm just going to kind of leave it the default for now, but there are tons of different options there depending on how many cameras you have connected and how you want those to be laid out. You could choose to have it display the substream first if you're worried about it having some sort of delayed image or the image quality being degraded. You could go to substream. It would be a little bit lower quality image, but you may get a better stream if you're running into issues there. Now, again, I thought we set the time under the wizard, but for some reason it has resulted back to Pacific Standard Time, so we can change that again here to Central. We'll apply it here. Let's see, under holiday schedule, if you had a holiday schedule, you could create one here or add in the different holidays that you wanted it to not be recording and stuff like that. You can do that here. Users, of course, we're just going with the default users for now, but if you wanted to create additional users for other people that may need to access the system or only need access to certain parts of the system, then you can create those types of users here. For security, we do want OnVIF authentication enabled. Everything else, our protection, all that stuff, we're just going to kind of leave it all the default for now. But you can see there's tons of different things that you have the ability to do right here from the on-screen display. Again, we talked about recording a little bit earlier. It is set to record all the time. You can change that if you want it to only be recording as it sees motion or has events that trigger it. You can do that as well. We only have 4 cameras hooked up to it, and we have 2 terabytes of disk storage. So I think at least for right now, we can just have it record all the time and it'll overwrite as it needs to. Under storage, this is where it talks about the disk drive. As you can see, 2 terabytes. It's got about 1,800 gigs of free space. With the formatted drives, it's not really recording anything just yet since we just started doing it. So for motion detection, you can add in areas that you want it to be watching and monitoring. That way it will not monitor the whole image. It'll only monitor those areas for motion detection if you wanted it to. Again, I'm going to leave it the default for now. Then you have the ability for tampering detection and human body detection as well. So there are a lot of capabilities with this NVR. So you're definitely going to want to check out all the different things that you can do with it because there's just so many different things that you can play around with. And again, if you didn't get the app downloaded yet, you can use this QR code here to download the app on your phone, which is called Guard Viewer. And of course, then you can set up the camera and NVR, and we'll kind of go over that here in just a second as well. Other than that, that's pretty much everything that you can do on this NVR. So much stuff that we can talk about, but just so many different features there that you really just need to kind of tweak it for however your system is going to be configured and what you're going to be using it for. Here in this section, we're going to talk about the Guard Viewer app. We have it downloaded on my Mac. And of course, we basically just create an account, and then you're going to go here and add in the NVR. So we'll do device management. Then by default, as you can see, it's kind of already found the NVR listed there. We'll select that one. We're going to say add. It's going to ask for that username and password that are associated with that NVR, which we set up here earlier. And then, of course, it should just automatically kind of show right up. Here in the live view, we got just the two cameras hooked up right now, but there they are. Both of them look like they're working. Guard viewer or guard station, I think is what it's called. Looks like it's working pretty good. And we can open these cameras up and kind of see them here full screen, and everything looks pretty nice. Lastly, I'm just going to show you the Guard Viewer app on iOS. Now, again, in order to set this up, depending on how you have your NVR configured, you would need to open up ports externally if you wanted to be able to view it outside of your house. Your other option would be just to use a VPN service that you could VPN to your house, and then you'd be able to view the camera over VPN as well. So that's certainly some options there. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to set it up locally. I'm here on the Wi-Fi, so I should be able to access the local IP address. And as you can see, there are the two camera images showing up in live view. And if we click on those, we get the full screen view there as well. So that just kind of shows you how you can set it up and the various ways that you have to set this camera system up. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we're going to see if we can't get these to show up in Home Assistant. All right, so let's see if we can get this thing set up in Home Assistant. So here we are, we're in the integration section of Home Assistant, and if we hit add integration down in the bottom corner, we should be able to search for OnVIF. That's what we're going to use to try to add this. So of course it'll do its regular search. I don't know that it will find anything, but that's okay. We can manually add it here. So we're going to go ahead and put the name, we'll just call it home. And then for the host, this will be the IP address. So for me, it's 10.10.10.230. Now the default port for OnVIF on this system is port 80. So we'll need to put 80 here, and then this will be the username and password that we set up at the start of this video. So we'll put those in here, and then it should come up. Let's see here. We hit finish. We go over here to home. All right, so there's our two cameras. So if we click on the first one here, you can see there's the stream. It looks pretty good. We click on the second one. There's the stream for the second camera as well. Everything looks pretty nice. So that's it. We were able to get it into Home Assistant without too much trouble. So that was actually pretty simple. May have been the easiest step of the entire video. Let's go ahead and move on to the last section of this video, and I'm just going to kind of go over my final thoughts. All right, so the Panoob 8-channel 4K NVR with 4 5-megapixel dome cameras. For $350, that's not a bad system. And the fact that it comes with 2 terabytes of local storage makes it that much better. I feel like this is a great starter set for anybody that's looking to dive into these types of cameras. This is obviously branded Panoob, but this is a Hikvision camera. You should be able to even run Hikvision firmware on this NVR if you wanted to. And obviously, any of those cameras like that that are IP based and have OMVIF support should work with this NVR. So that makes this system pretty nice and pretty flexible, I think. And like I said, for $350, for a 4K NVR that supports 8 cameras is a pretty decent deal. But if this does not fit what you're looking for, head over to their Amazon storefront, see what different systems they have, or head over to their website and see what other things they have listed there as well. I'll have the links for both of those in the description below, so you'll definitely want to check those out.
As always, I want to thank everybody for donating to my Buy Me a Coffee link. Every little bit helps. If you haven't had a chance, jump over to my spring merchandise page and check out all of the Burns home automation merchandise. And if you haven't had a chance, check out SMONet. I'll have a link in the description below. They offer all kinds of cool smart home products for you to check out, and definitely have some good deals there that you don't want to miss. And if you're interested in buying and selling stock or maybe cryptocurrency, check out Robinhood. I'll have the link in the description below for their site as well. And if you sign up with that link, you and I both will get a free share of stock. It's a win-win for both of us. As always, if you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments below. And if there are any videos out there that you would like to see that I don't already have out there, let me know in the comments as well. I'll see if I can get something put together for you guys. Otherwise, have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everyone, and look forward to a great 2022.